So, hey, I posted a few photographs the other day of the me running on the obstacle course, and it's funny because the obstacle course I've said many times before on my posts and stuff that Abilene has like the biggest, baddest static SWAT obstacle course in the state of Texas, bar none. It's called the Beast. All the SWAT teams know about it because we've had SWAT competitions here in Abilene before. And when we go to other competitions and stuff like that, all the guys know, man, I remember the Beast and I remember how awesome that obstacle course was. And, that's like, I live and breathe that thing. I began running that obstacle course back in the mid 90s. And if I think back, I mean, I never kept count, but I've ran that thing hundreds of times, like in excess of 1,000 times, I'm sure. Like I've gone out on my own spare time and ran the obstacle course. I've done it twice in a row just to prepare for obstacle course races and things like that. And even the guys on the SWAT team, everybody, but especially guys that are on the team, are like, why would you subject yourself to that? Like most of the people, even on the team, uh, did not like running that obstacle course. They avoided it at all costs, and I would go do it on my in my spare time, and uh, and I did it because it made me better. That's why I did it, and so I'd always thought that we push ourselves through obstacles to make ourselves better, and and I try to figure out a way, like the Warrior Fit Athlete is it exists to support a lifestyle of training and preparedness in mind, body, and spirit to encourage and develop the warrior and athlete within us all, right? So I tried to figure out a better way to convey this to my followers and my clients and my students. And I came up with the language after doing some thinking and training of some things in my past about being forged in the furnace of adversity and how character is developed by being forged through the furnace of adversity. And so, if I think back to some of my formative years on some things that I encountered that helped develop me into the warrior that I ended up being professionally and by heart, it goes back in my formative years to maybe first of all when my mom taught me some visualization skills. So I began hitting a baseball with a bat when I was about 3 years old. Started t-ball when I was 5 years old, and so then I went up the ranks where as I grew up to where I went to machine pitch and then coach pitch and then like regular pitching baseball. And of course, I practiced a lot. That was one of the reasons why I probably had a lot of success. I practiced hitting a golf ball like for hours on end against the side of my shed out in the side yard at my house. So this little bitty golf ball was what I always practiced with. And that way, a great big baseball coming at me looked huge and it was easy to hit. But my mom, when I was young, taught me about visualization skills in sports performance. I don't know where she learned it. She was never an athlete, so I have no idea. But she taught me about visualization, and so she would explain to me, Tim, see the ball, like in your mind, visualize how the ball is leaving the pitcher's hand, or back when it was even in the machine, I think, just coming at you, and visualize hitting the ball, making contact, and visualize getting on base and running the bases and coming all the way around and scoring for your team. And so my mom, strangely enough, taught me visualization skills for sports performance. And then I utilized those later on and still do to this day. But then the funny story that I wanted to share with you that many people probably haven't heard was what something that my drama teacher taught me in high school then and later in my formative years. So Pam Bomer, I hope that you see this video. I'm going to try to tag you or something so you get credit for this. But I've never forgotten it. I've utilized it many times, and I would submit that it helped save my life and has made me into the person that I helped made me into the person that I am today. So when I was 16 years old and junior in high school, my acting debut was as Wilbur the Pig in Charlotte's Web. So this was my first attempt at acting as a junior in high school, and the production was a Charlotte's Web, and I tried out and I made the lead role essentially as Wilbur. Wilbur's the star, right? right along with co-star Charlotte. And so we intended on doing it as a children's program. The intentions were we would travel, like tour to all of the elementary schools in Mansfield where I went to school, and do the production of Charlotte's Web for all the kids at all the different elementary schools. And so, we practiced and practiced, and the day came for dress rehearsal. There was also something else going on. I don't even remember why we did it specifically, but I remember that we intended on dressing in full costume the entire day at school, and we would make we would show up and do some promotion stuff for the school because we did it at our school as well. But then we would finally, at the end of the day, then still be in costume for our very first dress rehearsal, right? So it took me a long time or something to get ready to begin with before school. So when I showed up to school, all of the parking spaces on campus were taken. So I had to drive off campus around the corner in a residential area, park on the side of the street, and walk a long way onto campus. And then when school was out, I didn't want to have to go do the dress rehearsal and then walk all the way back to where I had parked. So when school was out, I went to retrieve my car to bring it up closer so it'll be close whenever we got finished with dress rehearsal. But if you can imagine, all right, I'm wearing a pig costume, and it was like a pink hood that covered most of my face, my ears and everything, and it had pig ears, and a pink shirt and pink suspenders and pink shorts. And I think it was like gray and pink argyle socks and pink shoes with face makeup. So I had a nose and silly stuff like that so that I looked like Wilbur. And so when school was out, I went to retrieve my vehicle, and I pulled out on the street, and I pulled out in front of someone, and unfortunately it was like a nice car too. It was like a 65 Mustang or something like that. It was something cool. Crashed into my car when I pulled out. I was probably, thinking about dress rehearsal and stuff like that, and eager to get my car over there and get moving. So I had a crash. I crashed my car, my very first car. It was an awesome very first car. It was a doo-doo brown Honda Civic hatchback. It was actually a pretty cool car, but anyway, I crashed my car. And so, well, when you have a crash, the police show up and take a crash report. So imagine how ridiculous I looked and felt standing at the corner of our main strip where everybody's leaving school and coming to pick up kids, just like that, with the police officer with his lights on, attracting even more attention. I'm standing there in a pig costume. I don't know how the police officer kept a straight face taking my accident report. And of course, I was mad. I was embarrassed. I got done with the police report, and I drove on in, and I went in to where we're supposed to be doing dress rehearsals, and I was in no mental condition to do a dress rehearsal, right? I had just crashed my very first car, just being an idiot and not paying attention, and like my passenger door was dinged in where it wouldn't even open. Like it was some pretty decent damage on the car, and I was in no condition to do that dress rehearsal. Well, Pam Bomer, during our drama classes, had taught us some relaxation and meditation exercises. And she grabbed me and said, "Tim, I'm going to put you through the relaxation and meditation exercise, and then we're going to do the dress rehearsal. Do you understand?" And I went along with it, and she put me through this thing where essentially you just kind of, she talks like just body part by body part, totally relaxing the body, almost separating the physical body from the mental body, and then through some visualization and things to help you focus and prepare and get your mind right for performance. She put me through this and brought me out of it, and then I wasn't even thinking about the crash at the end of this exercise. I went and did the dress rehearsal. It went off very well. And then once I was finished with that, I could backtrack and then deal with the crash and my messed up car and all that crazy stuff. But I guess to make myself even more vulnerable and farther down in my formative years, at those things, the visualization, the the relaxation and meditation exercises became much more valuable to me after I'd already began my career in law enforcement. I began working for the sheriff's office in Fort Worth when I was 19 years old, central intake and booking, downtown Fort Worth, Texas. And then I moved back to Abilene and began working for the sheriff's office in Abilene. And at the young age of 21 years old, I was diagnosed as a cancer patient, which, of course, is never the news that you want to hear. And I had to endure surgery. I had three very aggressive carcinomas identified. And after I healed from the surgery and went to MD Anderson in Houston, the protocol was either to, hey, you can just sit back and hopefully the surgery got it all, or you can choose to go through some chemotherapy. And what I ended up doing was 6 weeks worth of pretty aggressive chemotherapy. There were three different types of pretty aggressive chemo that I endured for 6 weeks. And I'll tell you what, it kicked my tail. I was young and strong for the fight to some degree, but back then maybe it was worse than it is now. I don't know, but it literally kicked my tail. Like, I would not wish that upon anyone. I lost about 30 pounds, and I mean, look at me, I don't have 30 pounds to give up. I lost about 30 pounds, and I probably weighed less then than I do now within that 6 weeks, and it wrecked me mentally, physically, and emotionally, and kind of sent me down a spiral, so to speak. But during the recovery process, that's when I began to implement the same relaxation and meditation exercises and visualization skills that I had been taught in my formative years. So what I would do is I would kind of self-induce this relaxed meditative state, and I would literally visualize to the cellular level the chemotherapy attacking the cancer cells and destroying them, and even healthy cells being reproduced. It's like, so I visualized how I would look and feel if I were healthy again. So from the cellular level all the way to future broadcasting of what I would want to be. As a matter of fact, that's literally that was the catalyst for so many things in my life. Like, I would not be the same person today, of course, had I not endured that. Okay. So I know that visualization skills worked when I played baseball because I went 6 years without striking out as a kid and an all-star player, which is pretty unheard of. If I had eaten my veggies and actually grown to a normal-sized human, maybe I could have kept playing baseball. I don't know. But that didn't happen. But I know that visualization worked. I know that the meditation and relaxation exercises worked because I was able to refocus and perform under stress. And I know that it also worked in response to my cancer treatment and chemotherapy, because I had another friend who had the same diagnosis, the same surgery, and he chose not to endure chemotherapy. Maybe that was the difference. I don't know, but he recurred and I never did. So it's been 25 plus years now and I've never recurred. And I would submit that some of that mental work, some of that visualization, some of that relaxation and meditation was some of the things that helped me overcome and endure my biggest furnace of adversity, right? And so what it also did after, on the other end, on the other side of that furnace of adversity, it solidified my resolve. Like, I wanted to be that much more healthy. I wanted to be that much stronger. I wanted to be that much better as a person. Like, you really don't realize sometimes the blessings that you have until they're taken away. And facing something like the C word reprioritizes things, right? And so I learned some of these skills beforehand, but I implemented these skills in the face of adversity. Thankfully, I'd learned them beforehand, and came out on the other side a different person, considerably different. And it was the catalyst, of course, to come back better, right? It's it purified my intentions of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be in law enforcement, right? I wanted to help people. I wanted to confront evil. That's just essentially what I wanted to do. And it helped strengthen my resolve, and it literally forged my character in that intense furnace of adversity. And so I developed some mental skills, some physical skills, some spiritual skills, and tools that I utilized in that heat of the battle, so to speak, to deal with my adversity. And so, like the obstacle course is just a self-induced furnace of adversity, right? And so whether it be your nutrition, whether it be your health and fitness, whatever it is, this is my kind of my challenge to you, I guess. What is it? First of all, recognize what you've learned and what you've learned to prepare for, and what you've learned on the other side of your own furnaces of adversity in the heat of that crucible. And what could you do to further prepare you for future adversity, whether that be physical, mental, spiritual, or all of the above? I submit that there's some value to even subjecting yourself in a controlled environment to adversity. It's like an obstacle course, because it makes you better on the other side, right? So anyway, that's my challenge. What can you use to hone your skills, to inflict maybe even some of your own adversity, and to identify some of the things? And it's especially appropriate, I think, in the year 2020, in this COVID-induced mayhem and stuff like that, that we focus on those things and come out better on the other side, right? So in closing, I'll read you something real quick from Paul's letter to the Ephesians, one of my favorite chapters, in chapter 6. And starting in verse 10, Paul says, "Finally, receive your power from the Lord and from his mighty strength. Put on all the armor that God supplies. In this way, you can take a stand against the devil's strategies. This is not a wrestling match against human opponent. We are wrestling with rulers, authorities, the powers who govern this world of darkness, and spiritual forces that control evil in the heavenly world. For this reason, take up all the armor that God supplies, then you will be able to take a stand during these evil days. And once you have overcome all obstacles, you will be able to stand your ground." So there you go, Where Fit Athletes. Strength and courage to you, and I hope this has been encouraging. And maybe I'll come back with some more tidbits of things that I've learned on my path to the warrior profession and warrior heart. Thanks.